Hi everybody, it's Ashley. Welcome back to my channel. It is time for my March wrap-up. I can't believe it is time for this already. So I have a couple of little confessions to make to you guys. The first one is that I apparently do not know how to stick to a TBR anymore. I used to be very good about it, but apparently not anymore. Not for the last few months at least. So, while I did get a good share of reading done, I strayed from that TBR yet again. I'm starting to wonder if it's even worth it to do TBR videos because I'm not sticking to them, and I don't want to have to keep putting the same books on my TBR every single month because I feel like that is going to be tedious for you guys and it's going to be boring. At this point, I am going ahead and planning on putting up my April TBR, but beyond that, I'm not sure if I will, just because I feel like they're getting repetitive. For example, Throne of Glass, not Throne of Glass, but it was Heir of Fire and Queen of Shadows were on every TBR for 3 months in a row, and I still have not completed those books. So I'm kind of like, I don't want to keep putting them on TBR after TBR after TBR if I don't complete them. So, it's getting a little bit of embarrassing, and, I just don't want to keep putting you guys through that. So, at this point, I'm undecided if I'm going to continue with TBRs. If you want to see them anyway, just let me know in the comments down below, and I'll keep doing them if that's what you guys want to see. But as of right now, I just kind of feel it's a little bit redundant, and that I might be boring you, and I don't want to do that. The second confession is I completely left an entire book off of last month's wrap-up. So I'm going to talk about that one first. That is It Starts With Us by Colleen Hoover. If you guys have stuck around for a while, you probably know that I went on a Colleen Hoover binge. I think it was last year. Might have been the year before. But one of the ones that I really enjoyed was It Ends With Us. And It Starts With Us is the sequel to that. So I was extremely excited to get to that one, and it checked all the boxes. I loved getting to see Lily as a mom and getting to see her and Atlas's relationship grow. It was such a beautiful book. I'm so glad that I read it. And I am so glad that she was away. She got away from the idiot that was her ex-husband. I would have preferred him to not be in the book at all. Personally, if it was me, I wouldn't have allowed him around my child, but to each their own, I guess. I don't know. I don't know. That was like the one flaw I felt like there was in that book. And now on to the books I read in March. The first book that I've read in March was The Writing Retreat by Julia Bartz. I did a full review for this one, so I feel like I don't really have to say too much about this one. The Writing Retreat is about a woman who gets an offer to go on an exclusive writing retreat with 4 other women, and they basically have to complete a novel in a month's time, and the winner gets this 7-figure publishing deal, something really, really good, but things start going wild. While on this retreat, things start going crazy, and it begins to look like an elaborate trap. I don't want to say any more than that, because I'll start getting worked up. I'll start getting heated. If you want to know more about it, just go to my review. I will link that down in the description for you. Essentially, this book, I feel like started off really well, but it kind of just went off the rails about halfway through, and it just kept getting weirder and weirder, and not in the best way. So I'm kind of conflicted on how I feel about it. I hated the last part. I'm not even going to sugarcoat it. I absolutely hated the last part, but I really enjoyed the first part. So take that with a grain of salt and do with it what you will. The next book that I read this month was Shiver by Lisa Jackson. This was the 3rd book in the New Orleans series featuring detectives Bence and Montoya. And I was correct with my TBR predictions. this followed a brand new case from Hot Blooded and Cold Blooded, which was kind of what I figured. It was very, very well done. Again, Lisa Jackson, she will put you on a wild ride as far as her storytelling goes. It's not always the most realistic, but it's always going to be like a wild ride. So it's like, if you want something that is wild, a little crazy, a little out there, go for a Lisa Jackson. She's not the most realistic, but she's definitely fun. Her books tend to be pretty long, but I personally never really notice because it's always such a wild, crazy, chaotic ride, and I'm down for it, and I love it. Shiver was no different. I really, really, really enjoyed this one, and I can't wait to continue on with the rest of the series. The next book that I read this month was Library of Souls by Ransom Riggs. This is the third book in the Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children series, and I enjoyed this one more than Hollow City, and I think that it is because I read them closer together. And this one, we're on a quest to find Miss Peregrine, who has been kidnapped, and they're going through time loops, and I think it's really, really cool, because it's like there's lots of time travel, there's lots of time loops, there's lots of jumping back and forth to realms in this, and the way that it's done is very interesting and very, very unique. I felt like I understood more of what was going on, probably because I read it so close together with Hollow City. And the writing is absolutely beautiful. Even if the story itself could lose me at times, like the writing was just impeccable. Has Ransom Riggs done anything other than the Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children series? I hear tons of people talk about that series, but I don't think that I've ever heard anybody mention anything else that Ransom Riggs has written. So if you know the answer to that, please let me know, because I think I would like to try something else, because I'm really, really a fan of his writing style. The next book that I read this month was for my Reading 3 romance vlog, and that was One Last Stop by Casey McQuiston. I really, really, really enjoyed this one. In this book, we are following August, who is relocated to New York, and she begins taking the train called the Q to her job every day, and she meets this woman named Jane, and they strike up a friendship. August actually has a little bit of a crush on Jane, and she discovers relatively quickly that no matter what time of the day she goes on this train, Jane is always there. She begins doing some detective work and figures out that Jane is stuck in time because she experienced something on the train or on the tracks at some point, and she got stuck in like this time continuum thing. And there is a whole quest to break her out of it. I thought that this was a very, very cute, very, very unique story. I liked the budding romance between them, but I also liked the mystery of figuring out what happened to Jane, how to get her out of this situation, what's going to happen after they get her out of the situation. And it was so much fun. It's like it had a paranormal feel to it. It had this time travel thing going on. It had romance. It was like the whole package, and I completely understand why so many people enjoy this one. It was such a fun, fun time. I am very, very much looking forward to reading more Casey McQuiston in the future. The next book that I read this month was The Sweetest Fix by Tessa Bailey. I'd read Tessa Bailey before, and I'd enjoyed her, so when I found this one on Kindle Unlimited, I was so ready to jump into it. In this one, we are following Reese, who is a professional dancer who has kind of been on the last leg when it comes to her career, and she scores this really big deal audition in New York, goes out there, but she's late for her audition. They won't let her reschedule, and she gets it into her head that if she gets an in with somebody that is familiar with the production, she might have a better chance of getting another audition. And she tracks down this director's son who owns this little bakery. And her plan initially is to make a friendship with him so he will get her an audition. But she quickly regrets this after she meets the guy and she likes him and she realizes how nice he is. And she's like, I can't use him like this. And decides she's going to try to make it on her own. Without the show, she starts doing all these open calls and auditions for other things since she's already in New York. It was a sweet, fun little story. I really enjoyed it. It was kind of short, but I feel like if it had been any longer, it would have been too much. It was like the perfect length for what it was. It didn't really need any more. And I really, just really, really enjoyed the way that the character recognized before she even did anything wrong that what she was doing was unethical, and she changed her mind. I liked that. She might have gone over there with nefarious intentions, but she chose to do the right thing, and I respected it, because a lot of times in these books, it seems like people don't realize the mistake until after they've made the mistake, and then they're trying to make up for the mistake. And that was not really the case in this one, which was a nice change of pace. The next book that I read this month was A Not So Meet Cute by Meghan Quinn. This one was also for the vlog, and I didn't like it. I mean, there were things about it that were good. It wasn't the worst thing I've ever read by any stretch of the imagination, but I didn't really find it to be anything special. So in A Not So Meet Cute, we have two extremely unlikable main characters in our leads that are both wanting to do something completely unethical and stupid. And there is the plot line for our book. No, I'm just kidding. So Huxley is a real estate developer, and he has been trying to land this deal with this one guy for like the longest time, and the guy's not biting. And it is suggested to him that, well, maybe he just can't connect with you on a personal level. This is a guy that looks at personal growth as opposed to just the business side of things. So you need to connect with him personally. And Huxley, being the dum-dum that he is, runs into this guy on the street, and he is introduced to his fiance, who is very pregnant, and he just spits out that he has a pregnant fiance too, and he's not thinking of the ramifications of that. He's just thinking, oh, well, I can connect with him personally, and I can land this deal. But of course, then they want to meet her, and they want to have dinner with them, and they want to do all this stuff, so he has to produce a woman. And then we have Lottie. And Lottie has just been completely stabbed in the back by her friend who she was working for. She had been working for this frenemy company for about a year, and she'd made her a ton of money. And the deal had initially been that after a year, like, her salary would be tripled. But when the year came up, she just got fired instead. And this isn't the first time this friend has done something to her. And this friend also has the audacity to, like, just expect Lottie to help her plan their high school reunion now that you have time. Now that you have extra time, it's just like, are you kidding me? You think you're going to fire me and I'm going to help you with something else? Like, it's just so, the audacity of this girl. And this, rightfully so, does tick Lottie off. And she goes on this mission to find a rich husband because she wants to stick it to everybody at the reunion, especially this chick. But it's like, oh, I landed somebody that's so good. It's like, I completely understand being angry, but I feel like that's a bit much. So they quite literally run into each other on a street corner. They tell each other their struggles. They agree to help each other out, but there's a little problem. They don't get along. And so this whole book is these two at each other's throats, complaining about how infuriating the other one is, but how sexy they are at the same time. And just the selfish, devious crap that they're doing. I have come to realize I don't really like fake dating stuff, because to me it's pointless. There's never a good excuse to just not be honest, especially when considering these are grown people. It's like, it might be a little bit different if it's teenagers because they're immature, but these are grown people. One of them is literally a billionaire, and I'm like, this is just so unnecessary. Like, you don't need to do this. It's like, I could almost understand it on his side because he's trying to protect his business and his reputation. He shouldn't have lied to begin with. That's totally his fault. But he's trying to save his reputation and his business. So I understand why he's doing it. I don't agree with it, but I understand. With Lottie, though, it's like, girl, you're doing all this to take somebody to your high school reunion to show up this girl that backstabbed you. It's stupid. It's not a reason to go through all of this. It's really not. So yeah, that book bored me to tears. I talk about it more in the vlog. Just go watch the vlog. Oh my gosh, it was very, very cringy. And the last book that I read this month was When the Sky Fell on Splendor by Emily Henry. Not going to beat around the bush. I wasn't crazy about this, but I'm going to give it the benefit of the doubt and say that it's completely because I didn't know what I was getting into with it. And I think that kind of skewed my judgment a little bit. So I was under the impression that Emily Henry was a romance author, and that's what I was looking for. So I plugged her name into Kindle Unlimited and Audible, and I was looking for something that was available on one of those platforms that I could read, because I was like, oh, she's really popular. I haven't read her before. I'll check her out. And I was under the assumption that I was getting a romance book. And I found When the Sky Fell on Splendor on Audible. This was not a romance book by any stretch of the imagination. This was an alien book. And while I'm not dead set against alien stuff, it completely depends on how it's done. I can enjoy it. It just completely depends on the way that it's set up. With this, though, it's like a bunch of kids that are doing an investigation, and then there's an incident, and like one of the girls gets taken over as the host. It's apparently in her, and like all of the kids that are in the group develop these different powers, and they're trying to piece together what to do and how to save themselves and all this. And it's just, I didn't really like the setup of it, and it was nowhere near what I thought that it was going to be. So, I mean, it very well could be my own fault because I picked the wrong one. But I kept pushing through it because I'm like, okay, well, it's like everybody talks about her really, really highly. And while I didn't think it was horrible, I considered it to be somewhat average. I wasn't particularly into it. I would have it on in the background whenever I was doing something. But I found it really easy to get distracted. So, I don't know. I honestly don't feel like this is an Emily Henry problem or a problem with the book. I think it was just more like I didn't do my research enough and picked up something that I shouldn't have, and that's completely on me. I don't want to sit there and say that this is a bad book or not recommend it simply because it wasn't what I expected, because that's on me and that's not my fault. So, and that's not the fault of the author. So I'm kind of torn because it's like, I don't want to lie to you guys. I didn't really enjoy it, but I don't think it was badly written. But now my question for you is, does Emily Henry write in a lot of different genres? Is that where I got mixed up? Because this was definitely sci-fi. It was like YA sci-fi at that. It was definitely not what I thought. So just let me know. Does she write primarily romance? Does she blend genres a lot? Did I happen to get the one book that wasn't a romance? Let me know in the comments down below. But that is all that I have for you guys. If you like this video, please make sure to subscribe, like, comment, follow me on the social medias. Click that bell if you want to be notified of all of my upcoming videos. And I will see you guys next time. Bye.